They laughed. Out loud. Like I had just told the dumbest joke at the family table. I said, I own property, and my uncle nearly choked on his whiskey. My cousins were wiping tears from their eyes, my own parents just shook their heads like I was some delusional kid pretending to know the real world. They all thought I was a joke, a broke college dropout with no direction, still sleeping in the guest room, working part-time shifts and chasing impossible dreams. In their eyes, I'd always be that screw-up who never quite fit into their picture-perfect, success-obsessed mold. But what they didn't know, is that while they were busy judging me, I was building something they never saw coming. What I pulled out at that meeting didn't just shut them up, it changed everything. See, this wasn't about proving a point. This was years of silence, of swallowing pride, of moving in secret while everyone else laughed. The deed in my hand wasn't just paper. It was the blueprint to a different life, and their reaction. Let's just say I'll never forget it. But before I tell you what happened next, you need to know how I got here. Because the truth behind that deed, and what it really cost me, goes way deeper than anyone in that room could have guessed. It all started with a whisper. A rumor, really. About a place forgotten, abandoned, left to rot under the weight of time and neglect. Oakhaven Manor. I first heard about it from Old Man Hemlock, the guy who ran the gas station on the edge of town, the one with the perpetually stained overalls and a cough that sounded like a rusty engine turning over. I was filling up my beat-up Corolla, the kind of car that screamed, "College dropout," louder than any words ever could, when he mentioned it, almost as an afterthought. He said something about a grand old house, hidden deep in the woods, practically given away for pennies on the dollar. He said it like it was a secret, something only the locals knew. And something about the way he said it, the glint in his eye, the hushed tone, it hooked me. I was restless back then. Stuck in that dead-end town, working double shifts at the diner, the smell of stale coffee and greasy burgers clinging to my clothes like a second skin. My parents, bless their hearts, tried to be supportive, but I could see the disappointment in their eyes every time I walked through the door, still wearing that stupid diner uniform. Oakhaven, this forgotten place, it felt like a possibility, a way out. That night, I couldn't sleep. The idea of Oakhaven, this hidden gem, it gnawed at me. I spent hours online, digging through dusty property records, scrolling through blurry satellite images. There it was, a faint outline amidst a sea of green, a forgotten kingdom waiting to be reclaimed. The more I researched, the more obsessed I became. It was like a puzzle, and I was determined to solve it. The next day, I drove out to the county clerk's office, a place I'd never had any reason to visit before. The air inside was thick with the smell of old paper and dust, the kind of place where time seemed to move slower. I requested the file on Oakhaven Manor, and the clerk, a woman with tired eyes and a name tag that read, Doris, gave me a look like I was wasting her time. She disappeared into the back, and I waited, the silence broken only by the hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. When she returned, she carried a thick, dusty file, the paper yellowed with age. She slid it across the counter, and as I opened it, a wave of something strange washed over me. It wasn't just the musty smell of the old documents, it was a feeling, a sense of unease, like I was intruding on something I shouldn't. The file contained the history of the manor, going back generations. There were deeds, tax records, even old photographs. But there were also gaps, missing pieces, things left unsaid. And then I saw it. A handwritten note, tucked away in the back of the file. It was barely legible, the ink faded and smudged, but I could make out a few words: beware, the secrets Oakhaven holds. That note, it should have scared me off. It should have been a warning. But it did the opposite. It ignited something inside me, a sense of adventure, a need to know more. I had to see this place. I had to know what secrets it held. The drive to Oakhaven was long and winding, the road barely more than a dirt track. The trees grew thicker, the air heavier, the silence deeper. I felt a growing sense of isolation, like I was leaving the world behind. And then, through the trees, I saw it. Oakhaven Manor. It wasn't the grand mansion I'd imagined. It was dilapidated, overgrown, the windows boarded up, the paint peeling. It looked like a place where ghosts whispered and secrets slept. But even in its decay, there was a certain beauty, a haunting elegance. I parked the car, the engine sputtering to a stop, the silence of the woods pressing in around me. I stepped out, the air cool and damp, the smell of pine needles and decaying leaves filling my lungs. And as I walked towards the manor, a sense of anticipation, mixed with a healthy dose of fear, washed over me. This was it. This was the beginning. I circled the house, my hand trailing along the crumbling stone walls. The front door was locked, of course, but one of the windows, boarded up and neglected, seemed loose. I gave it a push, and the wood creaked, giving way. I slipped inside, the dust swirling around me, the air thick with the smell of decay. The interior was even worse than the outside. Cobwebs hung like macabre decorations, the furniture covered in sheets, the floors littered with debris. But even in its ruin, I could see the remnants of its former glory. The high ceilings, the ornate moldings, the grand fireplace. This place, once upon a time, had been magnificent. I spent hours exploring the house, each room revealing more of its forgotten past. I found old letters, diaries, photographs. Glimpses into the lives of the people who had lived and loved within these walls. And with each discovery, the feeling of unease grew stronger. There was something off about this place. Something I couldn't quite put my finger on. As dusk settled, the shadows grew longer, the silence deeper. I knew I should leave, but I couldn't. I was drawn to this place, captivated by its mystery. And then, in the master bedroom, I found it. A hidden compartment, concealed behind a loose panel in the wall. Inside, a small wooden box. My heart pounded in my chest as I opened it. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, was a single key. A heavy, ornate key, unlike any I'd ever seen before. And as I held it in my hand, a voice, faint and distant, whispered my name. The whisper sent a shiver down my spine. I spun around, the key clutched tight in my hand, but the room was empty, silent. It was probably just the wind, I told myself, the old house settling, my imagination running wild. But the hair on the back of my neck stayed on end. The air felt thicker, charged with something unseen. I looked back at the key. It was heavy, cold to the touch, the metal intricately carved with symbols I didn't recognize. It felt important. Like it unlocked more than just a door. I had to know what it opened. I started with the obvious, the doors in the master bedroom. None of them fit. Then I moved to the other rooms, trying every lock I could find. The old wooden doors, the dusty cabinets, even the small, ornate jewelry box I'd found tucked away in a drawer. Nothing. The key didn't fit anything. Frustration gnawed at me. What was the point of finding this key if I couldn't find the lock? Was it just another piece of Oakhaven's twisted game? As I descended the grand staircase, the setting sun casting long, eerie shadows across the hallway, I noticed something I'd overlooked before. A small, almost unnoticeable door hidden beneath the stairs. It was no more than a few feet high, like something out of a fairy tale. I knelt down, my heart pounding with a renewed sense of hope. Could this be it? I reached out, my hand trembling slightly, and touched the cold metal handle. There was no keyhole. Just a small, circular indentation, almost like a fingerprint scanner. Hesitantly, I pressed the key into the indentation. The metal clicked, a low, grinding sound echoed through the silent house, and the door swung inward, revealing a dark, narrow passage descending into the earth. A wave of cold air rushed out, carrying with it the smell of damp earth and something else, something ancient, almost metallic. Fear warred with curiosity. Should I go down there? What if it was dangerous? But the pull was too strong. I had come this far. I had to know what secrets Oakhaven held. I took a deep breath and stepped into the darkness. The passage was narrow, the stone steps worn smooth by time. The air grew colder, the silence deeper, the darkness absolute. I fumbled for my phone, the dim light of the screen barely cutting through the oppressive gloom. As I descended, the passage opened into a large, cavernous space. The air was heavy, the silence broken only by the drip, drip, drip of water echoing through the chamber. My phone's light revealed a scene that sent a chill down my spine. The walls were lined with shelves, stacked high with jars. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. And inside the jars, I had to take a closer look. I stepped closer, my heart pounding in my chest, and peered into one of the jars. The liquid inside was murky, cloudy, and suspended within it was a human heart. I stumbled back, my stomach churning, my breath catching in my throat. This wasn't just an old house. This was a mausoleum. A horrifying collection of specimens. Each jar contained a different organ, preserved in some strange, viscous fluid. Hearts, lungs, livers, kidneys. Even brains. It was a grotesque display, a testament to some twisted, macabre obsession. I wanted to run. To scream. To get out of this place and never look back. But something kept me rooted to the spot. A morbid curiosity, a need to understand. Who had done this? And why? As I explored the chamber, my phone's light flickered across a table in the center of the room. On it lay a thick, leather-bound book. I picked it up, my hands shaking, and opened it. The pages were filled with handwritten notes, diagrams, and sketches. It was a journal, a meticulous record of experiments. Experiments on human beings. The writing was precise, almost clinical, detailing the removal and preservation of organs, the effects of different chemicals and concoctions. It was the work of a madman, a scientist obsessed with unlocking the secrets of life and death. And as I read, a horrifying realization dawned on me. The dates in the journal, they weren't centuries old. They were recent. Within the last few years, someone had been using Oakhaven Manor as a laboratory. A place to conduct their gruesome experiments. And the whisper I had heard, the voice that called my name. It wasn't my imagination. Someone was here. And they knew I was here too. My blood ran cold. A prickling sensation crawled up my neck. I wasn't alone. The journal slipped from my numb fingers, landing with a soft thud on the table. The drip, drip, drip of water suddenly seemed amplified, each drop a hammer blow against the silence. I strained my ears, listening for any sound above the pounding of my own heart. A floorboard creaked somewhere above me. Footsteps. Slow, Deliberate footsteps descending the staircase I had just come down. Panic seized me. I had to hide. My eyes darted around the chamber, searching for an escape, a place to conceal myself. But there was nowhere to go. Just rows upon rows of those horrifying jars, silent witnesses to unspeakable acts. Then I saw it. A small alcove behind the table, hidden in the shadows. It wasn't much, but it was my only chance. I slipped behind the table, my heart pounding against my ribs, and pressed myself against the cold stone wall. The footsteps grew louder, closer. They echoed through the chamber, each one a promise of something terrible. I held my breath, praying they wouldn't find me. The figure emerged from the passageway. The dim light of my phone, still lying on the table, illuminated their face. It was Old Man Hemlock. The gas station attendant. The one who had told me about Oakhaven. He walked to the table, his eyes scanning the room, a sinister smile playing on his lips. He picked up the journal, flipping through the pages, his fingers tracing the gruesome diagrams. "Curious, isn't it?" he murmured, his voice a low, guttural growl. "The things one can learn about the human body." My mind raced. It was him. He was the one who had been conducting these experiments. But why? Why tell me about Oakhaven? Why lead me here? He continued, his voice dripping with a chilling detachment. "I've been watching you, you know. Ever since you first came to town. I knew you were different. Curious. Just like me." He paused, his eyes fixed on something beyond the table. He knew I was there. He stepped closer, his smile widening. "Don't be shy," he said, his voice laced with mockery. Come out, come out. I have so much to show you." I knew I couldn't stay hidden. I stepped out from behind the table, my legs trembling, my phone clutched tightly in my hand. He chuckled, a dry, rasping sound. "There you are," he said. "I knew you wouldn't disappoint me." "Why?" I managed to croak out, my voice barely a whisper. "Why did you bring me here?" He stepped closer, his eyes gleaming with a disturbing intensity. "Because," he whispered, his breath hot against my ear, "I need an assistant." He explained, his words tumbling out in a rush, how he had been studying the secrets of longevity, searching for a way to cheat death. He believed the key lay within the human body, within the very organs he had so meticulously collected. And he needed someone to help him continue his work. Someone young, strong, with a thirst for knowledge. Someone like me. He offered me a choice. Join him, become his apprentice, learn the secrets he had uncovered. Or, become his next subject. The choice was clear. But I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of seeing my fear. I straightened my shoulders, my voice gaining strength. "I'll never help you," I said, my voice ringing with defiance. "You're a monster." He laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the chamber. "A monster," he repeated. "Perhaps. But soon. I will be a god." He lunged at me, his hands outstretched, his fingers grasping for my throat. But I was ready. I sidestepped, my phone flashing, the bright light momentarily blinding him. He stumbled, his balance thrown off, and I pushed him, hard. He fell back, his head striking the edge of the table. He lay there, still, his eyes staring blankly at the ceiling. Dead. The silence that followed was deafening. I stood there, my chest heaving, my hands shaking, the weight of what I had just done pressing down on me. I had killed a man. Even a monster, he was still a man. I stumbled out of the chamber, back up the narrow passageway, into the decaying manor, and out into the cool night air. The woods seemed to hold their breath, silent witnesses to the horrors that had unfolded within Oakhaven's walls. I never told anyone what happened that night. I packed my bags, left town, and never looked back. But the memory of Oakhaven, the jars, the journal, the chilling laughter of Old Man Hemlock, it stayed with me. A constant reminder of the darkness that lurks beneath the surface of the world, and the secrets that some houses hold. Years later, I found myself at a family gathering. My relatives, successful and smug, were discussing their property investments. They laughed when I mentioned I owned property too, assuming it was some rundown shack. Then, I pulled out the deed to Oakhaven Manor. The laughter stopped. Their faces turned pale. They knew the rumors. They knew the stories. And in that moment, I understood. Oakhaven was mine. Its secrets were mine. And they would never understand the true price I had paid for it. The silence stretched, thick and heavy, punctuated only by the nervous coughs of my relatives. Their eyes, wide and disbelieving, darted between the deed and me. The smug smiles had vanished, replaced by a mixture of fear and morbid fascination. I let the silence hang in the air, savoring the shift in power, the sudden understanding that I held something they couldn't comprehend. Something dark, something powerful, something valuable. Oakhaven had changed me. The horrors I witnessed, the choices I made, they had carved themselves into my very being. I carried the weight of that night, the weight of Old Man Hemlock's life, the weight of Oakhaven's secrets. It was a burden, yes, but it was also a shield. A reminder that beneath the veneer of normalcy, beneath the polite conversations and the forced smiles, darkness exists. And sometimes, we have to confront it head-on. I tucked the deed back into my pocket, a small, knowing smile playing on my lips. I didn't need their approval, their understanding. I had Oakhaven. And that was enough. If you enjoyed this chilling tale of secrets and shadows, be sure to subscribe to our channel for more stories like this. We delve into the mysteries that lurk beneath the surface, the stories that whisper in the dark. Hit the like button to show your support and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next descent into the unknown. The darkness is waiting. Are you brave enough to join us?